Hello and welcome to this latest edition of the consulting series In the Know. My name is Aman Purakarimi and I'll be running through the most pertinent news stories in the business travel industry in the last couple of weeks. Part of my role at Grey Doors is to review the most pertinent travel news and to orient that to our traveller and business community to look at ways in which they can augment their travel profiles to best practice. So, without further ado, let's have a look at what's taken place in the last week. The first up is the news today of the government's announcement that there has been some sanctions imposed on their preferred list of COVID test suppliers. Now, as you know, in regards to travelling, many require a COVID test prior to the departure and a further test on subsequent days of the second and eighth day, depending on whether you've been vaccinated or not on your return. Now, these suppliers have faced some criticism as there's been a discrepancy between the price that you see on the gov.uk published website and then when it transfers to their own website, the price inflates. So this has been seen by the government as a deliberate practice to effectively distort the market. My recommendation here is to avoid the government list altogether. Now, let me explain why. It's because firstly, yes, that behavior is going on, and also when they're on the list, it means that they are heavily relied upon in terms of traffic to their site, so therefore they have a restriction on supply. So they're always catching up with demand, particularly the cheapest ones on the list, which is what the leisure consumers are going to. My strong recommendation here is to discuss the preferred suppliers with your travel management company who have more than likely secured a strong discount, such as for us at Grey Doors, we can get it for around £29. But more importantly, there's also been a vetting in terms of can they meet the supply required. So yes, my recommendation is to discuss this with your travel management company and look at suppliers from there. Leave the government gov.uk website for the leisure travel. Another piece of interesting news that came out in the last week was Delta Airlines have partnered with high-speed rail supplier Thalys to provide passengers flying to Amsterdam connecting to Brussels and Antwerp a high-speed rail connection as opposed to flying by air. Now, the reason why this is important is because not only will it affect that route, but I predict that thanks to the government bailouts and the conditions for those during the pandemic was very much orientated towards removing domestic connections within Europe in particular, but also the US, you'll see, is to connect those to high-speed rail. So that therefore you will see the inventory that airlines have being taken away, and your ticket will have within it a connection to a rail speed network. Now, this is good news because firstly, obviously, the biggest impact is that it reduces your carbon footprint while you travel. Secondly, what it brings about is a clever form throughout the inventory is that when you go onto the website now, when you go onto your travel tool, you can now select, instead of selecting the airport in which you count as your destination and your point of departure, you should attempt to search by your point of departure from your home and also your point of desired arrival place, and is in the office. Now, if you put that into your travel management tool, you will see that you will be offered potentially, now this is just potentially at this stage, but this trend is growing, you'll see connections that include within your single air ticket the rail and coach connection services that take you closer to your destination, and that could be within one ticket, and therefore you benefit from the security of the flexibility of your air ticket and also the mileage that you get within your personal programs, and also the luggage transfer is taken care of for you. So this is a plus, but also look out for it when booking through your travel management company. You will see the ticket on there and it will note where the connections are. Keep a keen eye on that when you are booking, and I'm sure your travel management company, when you're booking offline, your operators will inform you anyway. Lastly, there was an article that's come out on Business Travel News regarding procuring of corporate negotiated discounts for particularly the SME market in terms of businesses. So what I've read within this is that obviously it's very difficult to predict doing negotiations in the best of times, but now it's even more difficult because your 2020 spend does not necessarily reflect what you intend to do in 2022. So what to do in this particular circumstance? Well, the first thing to do is ensure that the person doing the negotiations has the experience to conduct those on your behalf. Now, I say that for the SME market in particular because undoubtedly we've seen redundancies. I've seen travel management being seconded to office managers or human resource departments and so on. In this particular field, and I know I'm biased here because I'm a consultant myself, but it's worthwhile securing a consultant to outsource this for you on your behalf, and therefore you would be able to secure a contract where it has a return on investment guarantee within it with your consultancy, and therefore the benefit will outweigh that initial cost. Secondly, it's also to ensure that you as the negotiator or whomever's doing the negotiations for you is aware of your back to the office plan, because that's going to have a profound impact on your negotiations. Let me explain. So first of all, if you've closed offices, then there might not be a reason to travel into those previous 2019, 2020 top destinations. You're also looking at who is traveling again. So is it going to be the same departments as previously, or have you scaled it back, removed internal travel, and therefore only looking at your sales division traveling, which is going to impact the volume that you have and necessarily the leverage, and therefore you may decide whether it's worth negotiating at all. This is my most prominent point here, is that as a small to medium price enterprise, it's highly unlikely, in fact, that you would be able to, particularly with airlines, is to negotiate a tailor-made volume discount. So what to do in this case is to take the standard business programs that these airlines offer, which include a flat discount on all their routes against the published fare. Now, it's not particularly a strong discount, but it's better than nothing. And also it considers such elements such as discounted in terms of luggage allowance, points accrual, and so on. The other element is to dovetail that with your travel management company's own leverage with their deals. So talk to your travel management companies and ask, what was the average ticket prices that you are achieving against the published rate? And therefore you can see that the discounts they themselves have often betters what businesses can negotiate by themselves in the SME market. In the hotel space, my feedback is that if you look at the top major cities at the moment, so London, Manchester, New York, so on and so forth, is they are not predicted to have the occupancy levels that you would have seen in 2019 till around 2023 at the earliest. So what does this mean for you as a business is that you probably don't need to negotiate rates in those markets. Where you are seeing a strong uplift is in the leisure sector. So what that involves is look at your cities. Are they highly leisure orientated? I'll give you an example. So for example, Cornwall, Devon, that kind of area is likely to see an increase, and to maintain that as domestic leisure staycations persist. So for that part of the viewpoint, in those cities where leisure is strong, negotiate a corporate discount where you have 200 room nights or more per annum in that city, because that tends to be the annual threshold for a meaningful corporate deal. Don't get caught negotiating discounts for the sake of it. I know it's very tempting, but often what needs to be remembered is that if you negotiate a discount, you're going to have to spend the time procuring that and also maintaining it. That involves quite expensive resources to do so, as naturally your supplier will want to see commitments that you're making in order to maintain that, and that can be a bit of a headache. Okay, well that's it for this segment of In the Know. I will be publishing a list of the links to these websites, and I wish you all the best for the coming period, and I'll speak to you soon. For now, it's Amon Karami, and you've been listening to In the Know at Grey Doors Consulting. Thank you.